About 2 years ago, I was watching a movie in my sister's room when something caught my eye. Out of the corner of my vision, I saw a white figure at the window. When I turned to look, I was shocked to see a faceless nun standing there. Although I couldn't see her face, I had the eerie sensation that she was staring directly at me. She was dressed in an all-white habit, with a red cross, not a crucifix, printed on her gimp. I was frozen in place, wondering how someone could have gotten inside our property. To reach my sister's window, this figure would have needed to pass through our gate and walk about 25 meters without being noticed. But how could she? As I glanced down to pause the movie, the nun simply turned left, walked away, and disappeared. But that should have been impossible. There was another locked gate and then a dead end. I barely slept that night, my eyes were watery, and I kept trying to convince myself that it was just a hallucination. Later that year, I was drawing something when I suddenly realized that I had sketched a faceless nun, eerily similar to the one I had seen. She was wearing multiple crucifixes, had a strange crown, and her arms were wide open, making her appear as if she were floating. About 3 months ago, I was drawing again, this time using charcoal to create a female figure. Once more, I ended up drawing a nun, exactly like the last one. I decided to hang the drawing on my closet door. Why not? My mom saw it and hated it. When I told her about the nun I had seen years earlier, she suggested that maybe I had a sensitivity to apparitions, like my grandmother. She advised me to throw the drawing away, but I didn't. I left it on the door. A few days later, I had a terrifying dream. I was in a large, old house, and there were 4 nuns, identical to my drawing. They stood side by side, arms crossed, staring at me from the top of a staircase, gently swaying back and forth. I woke up in a panic and told my mom about the dream. She insisted that I should burn the drawing, so I did, but I still can't shake the memory of that faceless nun. Every now and then, I find myself thinking about her, unable to forget. When I was a kid, I used to stay at my grandma's house a lot. After my grandpa passed away when I was 7, I started feeling uneasy whenever I was there. It wasn't anything specific that scared me, just an overwhelming sense that something bad was going to happen. Despite that, there were still quite a few nights when I managed to stay over without calling my parents to come pick me up. I also had a habit of waking up in the middle of the night. Every night at home, I would get up, check to see if my parents would let me sleep in their room, and if they wouldn't, I'd stand at the top of the stairs, staring into the darkness, waiting for something to move or someone to start walking up the steps. I was a pretty anxious child. One night, about a year after my grandpa died, I woke up at my grandma's house. I was in a twin bed against one wall, with my brother sleeping in another bed next to me. On the opposite wall was a small collection of dolls and crafts. The 2 most prominent dolls were Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy, and naturally, they freaked me out. As I got up to go ask my grandma if she would come with me to the bathroom, I turned around and noticed something that still haunts me to this day. Raggedy Ann was waving at me, her head tilted to the side. I noped out of there as fast as I could and ran straight into my grandma's bedroom, leaving my brother to fend for himself. Even though my grandma was a sweet and compassionate lady, she refused to get up and check, being a very logical person. I spent the rest of that night under the covers in her bed. I'm 22 now, and it's been 14 years since that happened. I still think about it every time I go upstairs at my grandma's house. That doll has never moved again, but even though my family insists it was just a dream, I can't shake the memory. I was an anxious child, but I know what I saw. If anyone's interested, I can post a picture of the doll later today. When I was around 12 years old, my friend invited me to stay over for his birthday. He lived near an orchard field in Yakima, Washington. My older brother, who was 14 at the time, came with me, along with a few other friends. We spent the evening doing the usual birthday stuff, watching a movie, eating cake, and by the time it got pretty late, we were all looking for something else to do. My friend's dog had run away a few days earlier, so I suggested we go out and try to find him. We had a good-sized group, and we liked running around and exploring, so it sounded like a fun adventure. We grabbed some flashlights and binoculars and headed out into the orchard near the forest. We left the road and followed some beaten trails deeper into the orchard, toward a creek and a set of hills on the other side. At first, we were just walking and talking, but then something caught my eye. It was a figure, standing at the top of one of the hills. I thought I was seeing things, so I pulled out the binoculars to get a better look. When I looked again, the figure was running down the hill toward us. It was massive, tall, furry, and standing on two legs. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, but I could see the tall grass behind it flattening as it moved. I was in shock, so I handed the binoculars to my brother without saying anything. He looked through them for about 5 seconds, then dropped the binoculars on the ground and bolted back to the house without saying a single word. He ran as fast as he could, and the rest of us followed, not knowing what was going on, but feeling the need to get out of there. I'm 22 now, and my brother is 24. Every once in a while, we talk about that night, and even our mom likes to bring it up. We still don't know what we saw, but we both agree on one thing: whatever it wasn't human.